Wow, NASCAR just announced sweeping rule changes ahead of the 2025 season. Let's break them down. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove Instant Reaction. I was actually editing a different episode for today. I may still post that video. I might not. I'm not sure. I'm too distracted by this wild email NASCAR just sent to my inbox. The subject line reads, NASCAR Rulebook Bulletin. Oh boy. I've already read through the rule changes once. I'm going to read through them a second, maybe even a third time here with you guys. Let's try to make sense of all this. We'll start with the change that I think most fans will celebrate. The damaged vehicle policy for Cup Series only. Vehicles placed on DVP may drive to the garage or be towed to the garage and will not be out of the race. Ding dong, DVP is dead. There are more details. The 7-minute clock, 8 minutes at Daytona, remains active for vehicles making repairs on pit road. When the clock expires, the vehicle must go to the garage to continue work. There is no clock for repairs made in the garage. That is all we've ever really wanted, NASCAR. Thank you. The past few years under the DVP, if you were involved in an on-track incident, a crash, a spin, what have you, you had 6, and then they changed it later to 7 minutes to make all the necessary repairs on pit road and then meet minimum speed. If you went to the garage after a crash for any reason, you were out. Didn't matter if the damage was minimal, could be repaired, you were out of the race, not allowed to return. That all changes under this new rule. That is huge. The DVP faced significant scrutiny late last season when Josh Berry and then I believe Ryan Blaney in a playoff race were forced to retire from the event despite minimal contact, minimal damage. I think in the case of Josh Berry, wasn't it just a few flat tires? He was towed to the garage and per the rule book was not allowed to return to the race. That all changes. Good call. I like this move. Well done, NASCAR. But boy, there is so much more in this email. Let's talk playoff waivers. That was a fun conversation back in May, right? Now NASCAR says, if a playoff waiver is granted for missing a race, the driver will forfeit all current and future playoff points earned prior to the playoffs and will start the playoffs with a maximum of 2,000 points. Exceptions to the forfeit of playoff points includes medical reason, driver, birth of a child, family emergency, etc., and age restrictions. Whew, so this means if this rule had been in place in 2024 when Kyle Larson chose to skip the Coca-Cola 600 to race in the delayed Indy 500. NASCAR granted him that waiver, which would have allowed him to still race his way into the playoffs, but under this rule, Larson would have forfeited all of the playoff points he had earned up to that point and any playoff points he may have earned after the fact. So, wow, playoff waivers just became much less powerful. Now again, they reiterate if a driver is injured, if that's why they're out of the seat and have to miss time, this does not apply. One waiver exception that's not listed is suspensions. So if you get suspended for right-rearing someone, intentionally crashing someone, you could stand to lose all of your playoff points, it appears, based on this rule change. Whew. That's harsh. So if you're suspended or you choose to miss a race for a reason not listed below, you may get your playoff waiver, but you may forfeit all of your playoff points. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that if it rains in Indianapolis again this year, Kyle Larson ain't sticking around. They will be jetting him off to Charlotte as quickly as they possibly can. I honestly don't mind this compromise. I actually don't. Some people are going to think this is petty, that this is, targeting Hendrick and Larson after, last year's Memorial Day weekend debacle. But like I said at the time, while I think it was the right decision to grant Kyle Larson a playoff waiver, NASCAR has to ensure its sponsors, its broadcast partners, and especially its fans that the star drivers will be at every NASCAR Cup Series event, especially a crown jewel like the Coca-Cola 600. This is a fair compromise, in my opinion. If you really want to miss a NASCAR race for something else, you can, but you're going to pay a price. I actually think this is fair. Maybe that's a hot take. These next couple of rule changes, I believe, are a response to what happened at Martinsville in November when Chevrolet and Toyota attempted to manipulate the finish of the race to get their drivers into the championship four. NASCAR says today, verbiage around the 100% rule is replaced with a focus on manipulating the outcome of an event/championship. The rule now reads, any competitors who attempt to manipulate the outcome of the event or encourages, persuades, or induces others to manipulate the finishing positions of the event shall be subject to a penalty from NASCAR. I'm not sure this is any less vague than the old artificially alter description. NASCAR also fulfilled their promise of including manufacturer penalties into the rulebook. NASCAR writes, rules violations by an OEM may result in a loss of manufacturer's points and or loss of wind tunnel hours and or loss of RCFD runs. Penalties will be assessed for a violation of the vehicle testing policy, wind tunnel policy, event roster, and code of conduct policy. Like I said in November, NASCAR is in kind of a tough spot when it comes to enforcing these kinds of rules. Ford, Chevy, Toyota are some of NASCAR's most important partners. If they break the rules, those are going to be difficult conversations to be had. I'm glad rules like these are now in the rule book. Hopefully this deters future race manipulation attempts, but time will tell. The first time a team tries to manipulate the finish of a race, will NASCAR enforce this rule, or will they be wishy-washy and kind of sit on their hands? Time will tell. There's some other fine details in here, but one more big rule change that is worth talking about in this instant reaction video is something called the Open Exemption Provisional. NASCAR says, similar to a promoter's provisional used in short track and dirt racing, the Open Exemption Provisional guarantees a starting position for world-class drivers who enter a NASCAR Cup Series race. Whoa, and they clarify, this isn't like a spot in the 40-car field. No, this could be like a 41st position on the grid, potentially. They say if the OEP is used, the driver/car owner will not be eligible for race points, playoff points, prize money, or any tiebreaker benefit of finishing position. So that's how they're able to add a 41st car, for example, to the grid. It's not siphoning any prize money away from the other 40 entries. This is wild, and I can't wait for future debates on what drivers qualify as world class. NASCAR says criteria for approval will be on a case-by-case basis, with prior racing resume a significant contributor. Full-time NASCAR drivers are not eligible. A race team must request the provisional 90 days prior to an event. This is an interesting rule. It's one step closer perhaps to 43-car fields. I assume that if you apply for the OEP, but then you qualify for the race straight up on speed, in the case of Daytona, through the duels. If you qualify for the race, I assume you don't need the OEP at that point, right? Like, now you just qualified straight up, you are still eligible for prize money, points potentially. I guess you would just request an OEP in case you fail to qualify for the event. Then you can, pull that card and say, hey, we filed for this, let us in anyways. And okay, they'll let you, you just can't earn money. I like that. Say a big name driver comes in with a big name sponsor willing to pay a ton of money to try NASCAR for the first time. This guarantees they will make the race. Sure, if they don't qualify in on speed, they aren't eligible for points, prize money, that sucks, but at least they won't be sent home. The reason I say I like that is that I hope it encourages more non-NASCAR drivers to give NASCAR a try. I don't know if the risk of failing to qualify for an event is a deterrent, if that's a reason why some world-class drivers are afraid to try NASCAR, but this rule would effectively eliminate that concern. Max Verstappen doesn't have to worry about failing to qualify for the Daytona 500. He'd be in automatically. I want to see more world-class drivers give NASCAR a try. I think this rule makes that more likely. It does take away some intrigue from the Daytona duels, for example. But if it means more Helio Castroneves' attempt NASCAR races, I'm here for that. I'm trying to find confirmation online. Jeff Gluck says here that Helio is in the Daytona 500 as a result of the OEP, but I don't know if he's reading the same rule I am. Maybe we're just interpreting it differently. Oh yeah, no, here it is. Bob Pocker says NASCAR confirmed Helio Castroneves will have a guaranteed spot for the Daytona 500. So yeah, I don't love that. I guess this is the caveat. I can't have it both ways. I want the competition. I want the duels to matter. I want that pressure, but I also want people like Helio Castroneves to compete in the Daytona 500. Like, that's awesome. That's a great storyline. Y'all know me. These days, I root for great storylines. So It's kind of funny because who else is attempting to qualify for the Daytona 500? JJ Yaley? You're telling me JJ Yaley isn't a world-class driver? You're telling me Mike Wallace isn't world-class? Anthony Alfredo? Dude's a legend. No, in all seriousness, I mean, I guess Jimmy Johnson hasn't officially announced a Daytona 500 bid, but I would assume if Jimmy Johnson attempts the 500, he's locked in through this OEP. Obviously, he'd like to race his way in so that he can collect the prize money, all that good stuff, but no matter what, Jimmy would know he will be in the race, even if he's a 41st or 42nd car on the grid, right? Let me look at the criteria again. Criteria for approval will be case by case, prior racing resume, contribute. Full-time driver's not available, but he's not full-time anymore, right? So, yeah, if Jimmy attempts the 500, he should be locked in through the OEP. I guess Castroneves and Johnson would still want to race their way in organically because, again, it comes with more purse money, points for the team, etc., 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 but it's no longer essential, I guess. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I hope it leads to more international drivers trying NASCAR, but if it doesn't, then I don't know, it kind of took some of the intrigue away from the Thursday night duel races, and that's kind of lame. So I guess I could go either way on this. Let me know how you're feeling down in the comments below. Again, this is an instant reaction. I'm trying to piece my thoughts together here more or less in real time. But those are the major rule changes NASCAR announced today. I know some of y'all are going to ask about playoffs. Have they changed anything about the playoff format going into 2025? The answer is no. But according to Jeff Gluck, he checked. That doesn't mean there still couldn't be changes announced before the season starts. So there's still a chance the format could be adjusted between now and February. We'll have to wait and see. There you go. Those are my initial thoughts. Share yours down in the comment section below. That's all I've got for this episode, folks. I will talk to you again very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in.